What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Unspoken Truth Podcast. This is your host, Tanise. This is another great Friday. Um, Another day for us to discuss, have some transparent conversation. For those of you who don't know, this is Men's Mental Health Month. So my guest tonight is a recurring visitor. Goes by the name of Trippy. We're gonna jump right in it. We gotta talk about it. Tonight's topic is more to being a man than a bank account status and providing security. Woo! So I know it wasn't enough room for me to type it all in, but let's get into it, man. Trippy.
What's happening then? Hey, America.
So tonight's topic I think is pretty heavy. But again, this is Men's Mental Health Month. So this is more of a month dedicated to the awareness of the man's mental health.
Right.
Tonight's topic is more to a man than his bank account status and providing security.
I absolutely agree, goddamn.
Okay, and so let's talk about that because some people might be confused by what you mean by that. Together we came up with this topic, but I don't want people to read something into it more than what it is. We need to stay on track of why we titled it that. Men are not sharing their emotions, how they feeling. I think that's
Right.
and it's also a status quo, if you will, about what a man is, what he's supposed to be exuding, as far as the opposite sex when it comes to a woman and so forth. So what do you mean when you say it's more to a man than his bank account status, meaning how much money he got, and providing security, meaning protection? Is that what you're saying?
Let's take it on the flip side. More than just it's more to a man than his societal role.
Okay.
Okay, let's flip it. A woman is more than just a baby maker and a sex toy.
Absolutely. Yep.
A man is more than a bank account in a role of security. A man is a human, and these humans have thoughts, emotions that sit outside of their societal norm and roles. And if we don't tend to understand the human, then the societal norm and role placed on that human may weigh down that human if that human is not feeling secure enough outside of his societal norm and role. If you don't like me, if you don't understand me as a person, it makes it hard for me to do my responsibility simply as a man with you.
Okay. Okay. All
The
right.
same way as if you as a woman were in a situation where the only thing that human seen you as is a child raiser and a sex toy, you would find it real hard to connect with that person after a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh. Whew. And I can say that I have felt like that numerous times. But
So how
I don't feel like that's not something that a man can feel as well.
But how many men simply feel like a bank account and a security guard and just accept that as the societal norm? Have to simply remove essences of himself from a family sense. This
Mm-hmm.
is the place where I'm supposed to be the most relaxed, but I gotta manage who it is that I truly am outside of my societal norms to make
Mm-hmm.
everyone else comfortable, for them to be who they are outside of their societal norms. And how often does that go on? How normalized is that to where most men don't realize that you're an entire human outside of your role to society?
Mm-hmm.
Simple case in point, I got a homie, real nerdy, Big Gino, real nerdy, super nerdy. And I watched this happen. He was sitting down. And Brody got a comic book collection he had been collecting since he was like young. And the comic book collection is really worth some money, right? This is who he is outside of his role of protector and provider. He nerds out on certain shit, right? And I watched the woman that he was with not understand him as a person more than what he was good in his societal role. He was a real good protector and provider. Boy made bank, and you did the nerdiest Gino is. You're not trying Gino, right? Um, but because the loyalty is more or less so to the societal role, and it's not just more or less of a woman man basis. This can happen between friends to where you befriend somebody because of their societal role and what they can provide to that. But outside of knowing the genuine person, now what that creates is a disdain for the genuine person, but an ultimate respect out of what that person does. And that's not something that's comfortable towards any human. Same way, if we flip it, if I place you in that position to where I see you nothing more than a sex toy, and you utilize me to confide in at times, it makes it hard to do that if I don't take you serious as a person beyond the role.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is something that has definitely affected dating, period, because of that very thing right there. Because it's almost like I want the benefits without the commitment. And that
Um,
kind of works both ways. I'm not saying that it's just the men that's doing that. I'm saying across the board. Um, that makes that a little difficult.
I think what happened with dating is more or less of a double-edged sword. I think back in the day, I think as time progressed, at first we were given this box, this idea of what dating is. And then as time progressed from like the 50s to the 70s, per se, we realized that, hey, we can get outside of this box. And then from the 70s to the 80s, it was like, okay, now we can really get outside the box. And it blossomed and bloomed into the idea or the reality that there is no box at all, just these borderlines that we created. But here's the other side of that coin, or thus the problem. Now, what this does is give everybody the free will to define what this quote unquote dating thing is unto themselves. And if you don't have any guidelines or anything to look back as a manual to what it is that you're doing, now what this creates is everybody just running with their own definition, winging shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I seen this TikTok one time. And it was this woman on this podcast arguing with another woman about the sanctity of marriage, right? To somebody who ooh, excellent example. The sanctity of marriage and why would an atheist want to get married, right? Because the whole point of marriage is supposed to be in the sanctity to God. But if you're running with your own definition of what these things are, then you would go into this commitment that wouldn't be any different than dating. The whole point of that outside of the commitment to God is simply just for the show of.
Mm-hmm. We have to talk about that on another day
Oh,
because
it get deep when you bring me on.
you know what I'm saying, because it's so many different ways that just that particular conversation can go. Um,
Yeah.
as far as men's mental health, let me start off by saying, how are you? You know, when is the last time somebody just asked, like, how are you? Because I think that I tend to do that a lot. And it throw people off. So then it makes me wonder, how often do men get asked, how are you? Like,
It's rare, but I think I'm a rare case of a person to ask, not necessarily because I'm the quote unquote strong friend, but because I'm the mentally aware friend. And I do a lot to make sure I check and tap into my own energy. And it helps me to be able to deal with the energy of others. Not to say that I'm not deserving of the question, but it's kind of rare to ask somebody that question when that same person is often counseling multiple people on what to do when they're not feeling okay.
mm-hmm. Well, I will say this: the help need help sometime too.
Fairly
That
true. Fairly. I am
That,
human. I cry, I shit, I shave. I be wanting to smack a hoe sometimes. It be happening. It be happening. I'm human. I'm gonna tell you something. A very wise man told me though. The whole idea isn't necessarily to avoid the emotion, but to understand what you do in reaction to that, and allow yourself to process so that the worst of reaction does not happen. You can't necessarily control what happens to you in life, but you can always control how you respond to that. And if you put that into practice, then your responses then become habit.
Mhm, mhm.
So the idea is, can I punch somebody's teeth out? Yeah, sure. We can do that. Fisticuffs all day. Am I trying to punch your teeth out? No. And that's the goal.
Mhm. Yeah. No. For little, little sense of humor. I don't know if everybody can handle that, but hey, I,
Hey, I just be speaking the
I
truth.
believe that laughter, humor, period, is a very useful tool for the mental. What are some of the things that you do or practices you have to kind of make sure that your mental and your energy and everything is okay, as a black man? Because y'all go through a lot of stuff that y'all don't talk about, just like we go through a lot of stuff that we really don't talk about. Um, what's some of the things that you do to kind of keep yourself, you know, together?
Um, well, one of the things that I do that I would promote to not just men, but women and children, everybody in our community, uh, genuine, true meditation. Just in our community, a lot of life tends to happen to us at one time. And in this digital age where everything is kind of microwave and in your face, life doesn't tend to stop. And that causes a sensory overload. And
Mm,
because that causes a sensory overload, it causes us to kind of chase the dopamine. And sometimes we have to sit down and allow ourselves that time to do process and slow down, allow our minds to kind of rest so that our soul can go on autopilot and kind of take over, allowing us to kind of breathe and chill and slow down our thoughts, actually
mm,
quiet the mind, give your mind a break. The one muscle that stays working 24 hours a day, even when you sleep, and then you're overloading it with information multiple times throughout the day. Sometimes your brain need a break.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
No,
something else and
for
something
real.
else that I would promote to the men is sitting down and really understanding who you are outside of your protector and provider role to society. Understanding who you are as a person outside of the role. I understand who I am as a person outside of the role. So I understand when things get triggered for me, the three things that I like to do, and it might seem vulgar to others, but I understand who I am and I don't give a fuck about the opinions of others. I like to kick it with my son. Me and my son go do some marvelous shit all day. I like to have a lot of sex and I like to smoke a lot of weed, but I understand that's who I am as a person outside of my role. I like to have fun
Mm-hmm.
and these things. And because I understand who I am outside of my role, I have my go-tos for when I'm feeling down. I understand that when I'm feeling down, me and my son can go to the park and play a game of tag all goddamn day. I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. That's gonna take me outside of my thought process and get me into a space to where things can slow down and I can think and take my mind off the problem. I like to kick it with the company of multiple people sometimes. Uh, 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 Allowing myself to go out and removing myself from certain thoughts and situations that allow me to process and slow down when I return back to these thoughts. I'm not thinking of it from an emotional state of mind frame at that point, but that's because I understand what my triggers are. I understand when I get mad that I have to calm down from the emotion of the situation to see what the situation actually is. And once most men understand who they are outside of what it is that society tells you you're supposed to be, to handle the problems of who you are when they arise get that much easier. First, find out who you are, then find out what you need to better you in.
Mm. Ooh, I hope y'all caught that. Like, hey, man, meditation. Find out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out how you can better yourself in that realm, in that field, and within that gift or talent or skill, because everybody has one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what
Mm-hmm.
I took from it. Okay, cause you a father now,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
this is Father's Day weekend, right?
Mm, I believe so, yeah.
Um, before you was a father, because you talked about spending time with your son gives you a place of peace where you can kind of slow down and process. Um, before you was a dad, what is the difference now between who you was before you was a father versus who you are currently as a father? Because I
Uh,
because I'm asking that because I know that's because we talking about society and how it creates this image
right.
of who the black man is, who he's supposed to be, how things are supposed to operate. Which I
Mm-hmm.
find ironic because unless you a black man, you will never understand.
Right.
I'm asking that because the fathers are not getting as much recognition. I'm seeing across social media, and that's the new society. Let's be clear. Stating like, well, Mother's Day was last month, and y'all did all of this, and y'all got all these commercials, and y'all got all of this stuff that promotes Mother's Day. And now that it's Father's Day, it's no commercials. It's not being talked about the way Mother's Day was. And I find that unfortunate. So just kind of tell me what happened, because it was a transition that happened from who you was as a man before you had a kid versus who you are today as a man now that you somebody's father. Talk a little bit about that, like what happened with.
I think what most women don't understand about fatherhood is that any true, genuine father, not just somebody who had the kid and then avoids the responsibility, but somebody who wants to actively step in and take the role of a dad, is that we lose just as much of quote unquote believed to be life as most women do when they feel that they're finna have a child and what it takes away from them. I was an audio engineer. I was a touring artist. Uh, I was managing models at the time. Needless to say, I had a life. My processes were different at that time because I had no responsibility that locked me into doing anything that I didn't necessarily want to do. So if I didn't want to deal with the situation, it was nothing for me to surround myself in a different environment or a different area that catered to what it was I wanted to do or who it was I wanted to be at that time. Um, Having my son put me in a state of not being able to simply escape my problems, thus forcing me to have to deal with my problems head on as a man, grew me as a man,
Mm,
because it put me in a state of responsibility that was bigger than myself.
okay.
And it and that took a lot for that transition to happen. I had to figure out a way to essentially reroute my whole life for the last I want to say 10 or so years of my life, after every maybe 3 or so months, you can catch me in another city anywhere in America. I'm the most traveled person in my family. For me to be in Houston or in this space for so long is rather unusual, but I can't complain. Why? Because in this new sense of purpose, in this new sense of identity as a father, it allows me to grow in a way that I didn't understand was possible at first. um it shows me a new sense of responsibility outside of myself, a new sense of drive and hustle. Not only not just figuring out ways to be efficient with the bag, but figuring out ways to be efficient with the bag that allows the family to grow, a different level or thought of growth moving forward that I wouldn't have had any sense of if it wasn't for my son being around.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. I want to say, and because I don't think that black men hear this enough, you guys are so necessary.
Well, thank you.
Period. It, it don't have to be a long, drawn out paragraph or statement, but you guys are so necessary because you possess something that the woman will never understand. Same thing with us possessing things about us that you guys will never understand. But it is presence, first of all, that I feel like is so powerful and impactful um, to have, because it's so many that lack that for one reason or the other. Because we have done an episode on baby mamas and baby daddies and who is the problem when it's all said and done and things like that. But in the end, the lack of y'all presence has crippled so many households, so many kids on an emotional level, because it's certain things that y'all bring that can't nobody else bring.
Tell it true.
Structure, discipline, protection, heck, all the way down to how to use the restroom. I struggled with that with my son, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, well, shoot, it's probably because we both do the same thing, but not in the same way. And I believe that that was very much confusing for my son because I wasn't doing it the way maybe he saw men doing it or males doing it. And I didn't understand that that was the disconnect. That I literally had to like let a man teach him because that was the only way. He was
Mhm.
refusing to do it with my assistance. And that's just the example of how important y'all being in the household is.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I know you personally, and you spend quite a bit of time with your son.
Don't
Which,
want to miss.
yeah, yeah. And that's huge. And I'm not saying that there are not other men out here, because I know a lot of great fathers. I do. I know a lot of great fathers. They may not get told that. Nobody may show them that. But shout out to all the fathers. The ones that's going out of their way, going above and beyond. The ones that's setting the tone. Because that's what y'all do. Y'all set the tone and lead. I, I can't say enough about not hearing enough stories about a successful black man, the black father that's actually learning how to still have what he wants in his life, but still show up for his kids.
Because I think we get a bad stigma based on history, and the history within itself is skewed. We began to get that stigma very much so after a lot of our grandparents and great grandparents came home from the war, and it was a lot of trauma filled soldiers that couldn't necessarily take care of themselves, let alone a family, and that spiraled into a generational a generational carrying of we don't need A, B, C, and D, which at the time would have been necessarily true. If your father was strung out on opium and every other day your microwave came up missing, then right, you don't need that in the house. But it ballooned into we don't need any man because we survived without the microwave thief. And I think we kept a bad rap for that. I think that's something that we adopted into the generation because today, because of that, we have more examples today of black present fathers than any other time frame that we've had, maybe in the history of America.
Hmm.
And I think the perception does more damage than what the reality is actually doing.
Speaking of America, and this is just my opinion, I feel like the child support system is the biggest threat to the black man. Um, they
Yeah,
they they say that is utilized to create a plan of financial action for the well-being of the child or kids, and is really just a wedge to create a bigger disconnect within the household, within the parents.
cold pimping. It don't got nothing to do with us. In every city in America, whenever the judge assigns father child support, he gets a percentage of that child support into some sort of retirement escrow account. I forget the exact name of the account. So it really don't got nothing to do with trying to keep the child together. It's really about how fat he can line his pockets at the end of the day. There's so many kids that have been destroyed off this child support system. It don't even make no sense.
Mhm.
By what the courts were saying, these child support babies are supposed to be the ones that make it into college and do something with their life. Because we force the parents to make the best decision. You know how many child support babies is felons before 18?
Yeah, I mean that's also another crisis because of those type of things being implemented and put into place. It destroyed more than just a child or a family. It also hindered our children, especially the males, and
Not
handicapped.
necessarily hindered the children. It our oh, because if I go here to you, know I'm finna go here.
Well, I mean, it's just my opinion. I feel like it's more than just them having abandonment issues and suffering from trust issues due to the lack of the presence of their fathers or any male for that matter that actually got their head screwed on straight and can actually teach and the child can learn something from. It's so many kids that didn't get that because of the system, because of them putting that in place. It's a lot of men out here who feel like if I gotta pay child support, that's all I'm gonna do.
But see, watch the role that we tend to play in that, right? Because it's simply a system. But then to do the opposite means that you have to find a way to survive without the system. And you might be able to say, yeah, when I ask this question, but what about majority of people in your comments? Can y'all survive genuinely without the system?
Mm.
Then that see how that has nothing to do with the child.
Mm-hmm.
at all.
It don't. But I also think that it destroys the mental health of both parents. The
It
parent
destroys the
who,
possibility for us to be able to commune as a family, even if we are a broken family.
hmm hmm I think it created a trend of men just creating a bunch of broken homes too.
Not necessarily true. I believe that was true at a certain point in time in our community. Um, Babies became a hustle,
Mm.
and that became a problem. Babies became a way for people to find a way to get out of their circumstances. I don't know how many women I've been like that it's came and told to me that they were in dire situations, and the thing that their mother or grandmother told them to do was to find somebody and have a baby.
Mm.
Babies became a hustle, and
Because
then it
of,
became a government funded hustle.
yeah, because of the things that you could get, the perk, and see, okay, because that's also gonna be a future topic, the system, like you
Think
talking
about
about.
it this think about it this way. I could have this baby, just my son sitting right here. I can get a house. I can go get somewhere that can pay for all of my food. I can
Mhm.
get somewhere that'll understand that I don't got no job experience and I had me doing something stupid like organizing pencils. See what I'm saying? Look at all of the things that I can get to just make my life comfortable, irregardless of the fact that the house that they're going to give me that I don't necessarily have to pay for is in an environment to where he may die or grow up with some real survival tactics.
Mhm. Not so much of that. It's an exchange. And we're going to talk about that on the episode about the system, but it's an exchange. Any assistance that any parent has taken from the state, government, county, whatever you want to call it, all the way down to the WIC and the birth, it's got some ties to it. It's got some conditions to it. It ain't, I'm just giving it to you and that's it. Because the moment you stop complying with what they telling you to do, all the perks and all the assistance gone.
But then that falls back into the question, can you genuinely survive without the system?
Well, not when they
Because
put it in place to
it's not
brainwash you. Because I know women that continue to have babies, and may be part of the reason why they start putting limits on how long you could get some of this assistance and perks and stuff, because they would just keep having babies so they could continue getting. It's a brainwashing. It's a condition for you to feel like I can't survive without the system. That's what I was trying to get at. Like, because it's a lot of people that can't elevate to the next level, whatever that is, because they scared to let go of any of the assistance.
not necessarily that. Afraid, not even afraid, ignorant to the fact that this isn't like a lot of people see this system as life in itself. And I really rather hate that because you know what I miss? What happened to back in the gap when we all used to stay like 12 in a house and this used to be the community. It used to be one big ass house. Somebody used to own the house and you can find Negroes 13 deep in the house, and we wouldn't leave until somebody else was able to actually purchase another home. And that's what kept us out of Section 8 for a long time. That's
Mm-hmm.
what kept us from having to deal with their system because we had a system of our own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But in order to get away from their system, you're going to have to get the hell away from there. Can you survive without their system? Can you put your pride aside enough to where you, your sister, and maybe your brother all pitch in on rent? All the kids got to get their shit together and learn how to live together, pallets in the middle of the floor like how we used to do. Can everybody sit their pride enough to the side so that we can win and live on our own system as opposed to what they give us to make having not to deal with a motherfucker okay? Because that's really the trade-off we making. That's what started the original Section 8 trade-off. Hey, you don't want to deal with a motherfucker? Come deal with us.
Hmm.
And it's been hell ever since.
Mhm. So, what is it that the black man can do to help us get back to that? What you talking about? Because I feel like the displacement and the disconnect went on for so long. A lot of men missed learning how to lead, what was necessary, um, in
I
order
don't
to.
think that I don't think that's necessarily true 110%, especially if we look. I think there's a perception issue when it comes to black men. Very, very badly. Very, very badly. Not to say that there are not black men who do not take care of their responsibilities. It's not to say that that's not affluent. But the way we speak on black men, especially in media today, as if out of 10 black men, 9 of them got illegitimate kids hidden somewhere in the middle of America. And that's not necessarily true. I think what's needed out of our community is more vocal black men because this is a majority of us who aren't our shit to the best of our capacity, even if we're doing it in some unconventional ways, which ain't new to black folk. We've been doing that since we've been doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we need to start speaking. I think we really need to start speaking out on that to get back to that being the norm, understanding who we are as black men. Me personally, don't like having 9 to 5s because I don't like being told what to do. Do that mean that I'm a black man not on this shit? Obviously not. Obviously, clearly, clearly, I make my money in some real unconventional ways, but it's all legal. It helps me move forward in my family, and I get to help people along my way every day.
Mhm.
I just choose not to live within the system that they choose to give me. But guess
Mhm.
what? Your granddaddy probably would have said the same shit. Or
Mhm.
something towards that. I don't want to fuck them white folk money. Why would I want
Mhm. Cause I believe that we never given something without losing something or having something taken away. It's never been a fair exchange. Cause I hear that term a lot in my life, fair exchange, no robbery, and stuff like that. But when it comes down to who we are as a people,
I think what we can do as a community is start forgiving ourselves for the mistakes of the past. Because what really happened to us is we got sold the cheat code, a quote unquote cheat code to a game we didn't know the rules in. And then got held back dramatically for it. And I think if we can start forgiving ourselves for the mistakes that we made into the past, then that opens up a good lane of room for us to carve out what this looks like for all of us moving forward. I think that's the important part. Not necessarily forgetting our past, but letting a lot of the trauma of that past go because it don't serve us today. Same way
mhm,
with the baby daddy trope. That's not something that serves us today. If we go back and look at the numbers today, black men spend the most time with their kids out of any other race. That's not a trope that serves us today, but it's trauma
mhm.
that we hold on to. And I think
Where is it talked about? You don't hear people saying that.
and that goes back to we need to take control of our own image as black men. We got this thing about not necessarily worrying about what people say as much as what people see us do, and not people aren't seeing us do because the perception is beating out the actual image of what we're doing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And we got to start beating up on the perception. We got to start beating up on the perception.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because if I ask the average non-African American kid what a black man looks like, 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell me a rapper, and that's a problem. As a rapper, that's a problem. As a former rapper, that's a problem.
Mm. So let me make sure I get this straight. You saying that they think all of us look alike, or the image of what a black male looks like is a rapper?
They believe the most clownish version of us is our culture.
Mm, mm, mm.
They believe the most clownish version of us, the most extreme. They believe. I use this girl as an example a lot. I need better examples. They believe sexy red is our culture.
Mhm.
They believe that's what we practice.
Well, then they believe that back when Lil Kim was out, they thought the same thing. She just the new millennium version of that,
But
but
what's fighting against the
way
image?
more ratchet. But way more ratchet. That's all.
But, y'all have things to fight against the image. Y'all got Oprah. Y'all got all of these public figures that will speak out to say, "Hey, this isn't just us." What's fighting against the image of us? What's fighting against the image of us and Chief Keef? What's combating that?
I don't know because you got a lot of different people who use examples as like LeBron.
You mean the South LeBron that supports the Chief Keef and King Von with the, and not to say he's wrong for doing it, but if
What
we don't call it a problem, why
I'll
would
just
they?
throw the name out there. I'll just throw the
And,
name.
I'm glad you did that. I'm absolutely glad you did that. But that goes back to what I said at first about us as black men. If it don't affect us personally, we're not vocal about it. LeBron James ain't worried about no King Von shit popping off in his home. He got a gate and security, and then a gate around the community that got gates. He's not worried about that, so he can freely and he can freely jam that without having to worry about the influence of that reaching into his home. It doesn't affect him. He's not thinking about what the image of that does to the rest of everything. Think of it this way, right? To the non-African American, when we ask them what a African American man who's successful looks like, and they name off 2005 Gucci Mane, and the excuse for doing hold on, but the excuse for doing that is LeBron said it's okay. LeBron condone it. So if LeBron don't got a problem with it, LeBron say, "Hey, this my boy. This my. How's that not y'all culture? Y'all support it." Because no other culture would do that. Every other culture has a form of excommunication process. Please don't take this in no sign of excommunicating Gucci. I love Guwap. We jam it. We jam it all day long. Sorry to use you as the example, Gucci, but I'm just making a point. Or let's take somebody like Future, for example, who openly states that he quit drugs a long time ago, but still condones drugs in all of his music. And then the best of us support that, as opposed to doing what any other culture would do and clearly say that this is dramatization and fantasy. Or did they not do that with the Sopranos?
So what's holding the black man back? What does the regular ordinary black man do to stop that image of being portrayed about them? What are some tactics, some skills, some efforts?
Get, get back to calling make believe, make believe. Grown ass men need to start back doing that. Grown
Okay.
ass men stop being afraid of everybody else's opinion toward truth and start labeling make believe as make believe. Start labeling make believe as make believe. In 2009, Pimp C had just got out of jail, and the first thing he did when he got out of jail is he said Young Jeezy was a fraud because he labeling fake dope prices, and you poisoning the minds of the kid because they think they can just go pick up a brick like that. One of my favorite rappers ever since, because he told the truth and was unafraid of the opinions of what a whole city was gonna say about that while he was living in Atlanta at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Grown ass men got to start being grown ass men and start calling out the fake shit. Start calling out the imaginary, the imagination. Start calling out the facade.
Mm. Whew. Mm. How do
My
we?
bad. I just on your show dropping bombs.
Because it have to be talked about. Um,
Overstood.
I try to make sure that, especially when I'm doing topics in reference to men, period, I try to make sure that my son is tuned in, um, because they need to hear it. They need to hear it. And coming from me as a woman, as a mother, it's not the same as it coming from a man.
Absolutely.
It's different. It's different. How do we,
Absolutely. I
how do we
can.
take back control of our younger men and help them get on the right track so that they don't become victim of the same circumstance?
Grown ass men got to start calling that shit make believe. I believe in 2011, no, maybe 2008. Cameron and Bill O'Reilly was on an interview. Cameron, Dame Dash, and Bill O'Reilly. They was talking about how the music had influence over the kids' mind. You remember that whole conversation? The music is causing the kids to do weird stuff, man. They had a principal from Philadelphia come on, and he was talking about how the kids were misbehaving, using four-letter words, dressing what they considered to be inappropriate, and what the principal was saying was that the artist should have more responsibility in who it is that they influence. And what Cameron responded with was pretty on point. First, he said that the principal should be having more conversations with the parents because
Mm-hmm.
it started at home.
So
Then the
do.
next thing he said was the most important, that if me as a rapper has more influence over over the parents of the children that they see every fucking day, it's an issue.
Yeah.
Y'all, we as men got to do a better job of calling make believe.
Mm-hmm.
Start calling realities.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what probably would have saved you know what probably would have saved a young black man in America? His father roasting him, telling him you can't fight.
Hmm. I, you know,
You know
and
what probably would have saved a young man's life? A father that understands that all of that tough guy shit is really make believe, and pulling his son out the midst of some shit. A good solid ass whooping is better than a bullet.
yeah. In other words, stand up.
There you go.
In other words, stand up. Yep.
Cut out the idea of make believe. Cut
Mm-hmm.
out the whole thing to what most people assume our the character of our culture to be is a dramatization of a lot of the things that we did to survive, i.e., all of the super gangsterism that was today came out of a serious nature of the babies of the Black Panthers who grew up trying to protect themselves on the West Coast from rape, like real racism and savagery damn near. They huddled up together and made that. Now today it's a dramatization and a character of. It's not real anymore. Even the original people who created that lane will tell you it's not real or any money to be made even in that lane anymore.
Mm-hmm. So
It's
you
a
so you basically, the bottom line is men specifically need to learn how to let go of the past and the narrative that's been created about who y'all are, how y'all supposed to operate, and in what way, shape, and form that's supposed to be. Am I getting the gist of what you said so far?
That's why I said the perception was, or the way we're viewed is kind of like off, because most black men know that already. What most black men will tell you, and you've heard a majority of black men say this: nobody is gangster every day, hard all the time. We know this as black, but we're not vocal about that for real. And a lot of times, a lot of us lean into the perception of that when it benefits us sometimes, not understanding what the perception of that really does.
Create a fake facade about who you really are.
So then when they use it against us, we can't necessarily be mad if we're not, if one, we're not speaking out against it, and two, we're not doing nothing about it, or three, leaning into it if it benefits us at any given moment in time.
Learning to be comfortable in your skin. Being
Bingo.
being authentically yourself is what.
Bingo.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing, because gonna wrap up here in a minute. What are some tips and things you can give to the male audience? Because my show tends to cater to women because I'm a woman. Not to say that we don't talk about men things, but what are some tips that you can give, some nuggets you can drop before we get off of here on things to help better the mental of the man? I mean, we talked about meditation, we talked about understanding who you are, we talked about understanding what you can do, what you good at, and honing in on that. But what are like some, and I don't want to use the word quick or easy, but what are some things that young men or men in general can do to kind of help better their mental state?
The best thing a young man from the ages of 18 to 25 can do, or the best young thing a young black man can do from the ages of 18 to 25 can do, is immerse himself in as many different areas and cultures as possible. Um, to start gaining different knowledge in different places, in different ways of doing things, seeing how different communities act and respond with each other, and really taking that in and adapting some of these things unto yourself. It's a lot, and I mean a lot, that I learned from the Hispanic community. It's a lot, and I mean a lot, that I've learned from the comic book community. It's a lot, and I mean a lot, that I've learned from the college kid community. It's a lot that I done learned from the gangsters and the thugs. But you have to be able to move around as a man and be able to understand all of these different environments and what these different environments mean and do to you. And that helps you understand who you really are as opposed to what's been given to you.
Mm,
If
mm,
we young black kings and the world is ours, then go explore the world.
mm, mm. I definitely been saying that to my son.
For the
Um,
gangsters and the thugs, the OG
yeah.
told me this a long time ago. It holds true.
I'm laughing
And
at some of the stuff that you saying, but it's truth in it because I've watched my son mimic those things, and be like, why all the time? Like, what's up? Like, what is going? But I understand, like, it's from lack of direction, guidance from a man, and literally learning everything there is to know from me, and not ever really getting what he needed from a male consistently. And so that caused him to exude more feminine traits because you're in a house full of women versus him understanding that there is feminine and masculine energy in all humans, and that there's a balance. And if for some reason, if that's more of one or the other, that's an issue. I mean, best way I could try to explain it to him, hey, I see the error of my ways, and I see the results. I think as parents, that's what we do. You know, we we try to teach them not to jump or step on the same booby traps that we did, because we know the possibility of you blowing yourself to pieces. You know what I'm saying? But for whatever reason, and we was the same way, as far as I need to see for myself if what you saying is true or not, in order for me to be a believer.
Well, then how can you counsel a person to not be that type of person if you allow yourself to be that type of person?
Mm,
If this is who you are, then how can you counsel somebody to be anything different?
mm. That's where that acceptance of who you are comes into play. That's where you genuinely is cool with yourself. It ain't no issues. You know what I'm saying?
Because you want to
This
know
is who I.
in spite of that, um, you begin to raise your children with an idea of what that person should be, and an idea is never a reality.
Mm,
Now they have to compete with living to the standard of an ideal,
yeah,
while living with the example of the probably the complete opposite.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that for sure. How confusing that can make somebody,
Mhm.
especially a child. Yeah. hmm I got
Not
it.
just confusion, that creates distrust to the parent at that point. Because how can I trust you to guide me in the right way when you're telling me to be something that you don't have the capacity to be and showing me this on a regular basis?
Mm, mm,
Why would I listen to you?
mm, hmm, hmm. Okay. Well, I definitely uh, got socked in the face this episode.
Hey, baby, you could have told me to stop at any time. You know, I get to going. My bad.
No, no. Because, I'm a believer of start what you finish. Finish what you
Absolutely.
start. You can't, I ain't gonna never stop. I didn't came to love this thing. It's now turning into a passion of mine. Just having conversations. I feel
Right,
like if you gonna speak, at least let it be worth something, or let
right,
it be about something somebody can utilize or be useful to somebody, or want something that somebody want to hear. You know,
right, right,
um,
right.
I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
Both
Anytime.
on and off the screen. This conversation was very educational though, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that you talked about is stuff that, like you said, black men want to say, but just aren't saying. So I appreciate you for putting it out there. Hey, listen, hopefully this conversation will help motivate some men out here to start speaking and walking in their truth. You are who you are. Until you,
Hopefully, I hope we get back as a community of men to start calling that weenie shit again. That was such a fun time. Can we get back to that?
well, the world is, I feel like we too sensitive now.
But why? You know what
I
beats
don't
out
know
cancer?
why. I don't know why, but I'm just telling you
Tell this
that's
to all black men. What beats out cancel culture is not giving a fuck.
yeah. Marlon Wayans just did an interview. I just watched it a few days ago where he talked about it, that's what's missing. Because that's what we grew up on: laughter, sense of humor, comedy, um you didn't have time to be worried or stressed about nothing because you too busy cracking up, because what I learned is to start laughing at myself. During the day, you be done all kind of crazy stuff. You, I
Absolutely.
used to be so frustrated. Now it's like, man, I'll be cracking up at myself. Like, boy, you be doing some crazy stuff. But again, that helps. I believe that helps release a lot of tension and stress when you can actually laugh. Why would we be giving this as a feeling or emotion or something that we can actually do and feel if it was for nothing? You know what I mean? If in it all we couldn't find some type of happiness. So, I believe that if we could just get back to everybody learning how to laugh and let stuff roll off their shoulders, instead of us constantly putting stuff in the bag so we have to carry it, then the life.
We don't gotta carry it. That be the point. That's the number one thing I tell a lot of people who come to me for advice and guidance is that you don't have to carry the bag. At any point in time, you could sit the bag full of stuff down, address what's in the bag, pick up the bag now that it's dirt light, and keep it moving. It
Mm-hmm.
don't take nothing but a stopping of what you do. It's almost like accepting that you've been moving in the wrong direction on the map.
Yeah, yeah, no, for real.
You might have to turn around. It's going to take you having to cover all of that backtracking you had to do. But
Whew.
once you get on your way and get to where you need to go, at least you'll be headed in the right direction. And it don't usually take too much of nothing but just turning around and doing the work and walk. But people be so scared of the work. Just I'm telling you, the work don't be that hard usually.
I'm telling you because the way I analogize it is, for the longest I was swimming against the current. Eventually, I done burnt myself out. I'm exhausted from head to toe.
Majority of our community is, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a bad place to be. It's a lot of women I know that are under the age of shit that are under the age of 25. It's scary today that are so burnt out on their own processes of doing things rather than just giving up the processes of doing things. They're at a place to where they're ready to kind of just excommunicate from the world, and that's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
That's sad.
Well, I feel like it's because a lot of people resist the resources, the tools that it takes, because it's not like you doing it all on your own. There is tools to help you. And it's not like you doing something one time and it sustains the rest of your life. I think a lot of us get caught on that. Well, I did it one time, and so I should be straight. And that's just not how this thing goes. Your journey is until this life or dimension is over. Not because I did it, mustered up enough courage to do it one time. Working on yourself is a lifelong journey once you choose it. But most people, like you said, they afraid. So you stay stuck when you won't allow yourself to. How I look at it is, when you won't allow yourself to stay a student in life, regardless to what you being a student about. When you won't allow yourself to take in no other information other than what you've been told or what you believe, you hurt yourself. You stunt your growth.
Once you get to a place of actually accepting that you may want to heal genuinely, or not even may want to, once you get to accepting the fact that you genuinely want to heal as bad as you want to live, right? The process then does become a very, very fun process. It is some scary shit at times because it does make you take a look back at a lot of things you genuinely don't want to. But when you finally do address a lot of those things, then
Mm-hmm.
life becomes a freeing space for you. That's one of the reasons why I can tell my story from top to bottom as it is, and I can laugh at it to this. Oh, I got some cold jokes to this day, to this day. But that's because I've addressed a lot of the things that caused me trauma to my past, and because of that, I can now just see a lot of my situations as just situations I've been through. It doesn't haunt on me. My future moves aren't guided by my past traumas. So
Mm-hmm.
I have true freedom to make decisions in any direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Cause
not
you,
bound by my fears.
yeah, because you released yourself from that.
Why would I carry it? What purpose does it serve?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to defend yourself from that level of trauma has gotten most humans absolutely nothing but looked at weird and or cussed out and heavy on the and or.
No, no, but for real though, no.
I don't know. I'm just an observant human. So, like, if I see that people are like really trying not to have their traumas touched on in the way that they displays, that usually gets negative results. If I'm an observant human and I see that, why would I follow behind it? I've never seen it work out that way for anybody. Most humans can see it happening to other people and do the same thing, be looking up like, damn, bro, tripping. And then quickly fall in line under the same act and action instead of finding something different to do. Because it's not like we're gonna be the ones to beat out the system and find a new way to trip out that ain't gonna cause problems.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank
Absolutely. Thank you.
y'all. Thank you, Trippy.
You are most
For
welcome to. You know
coming,
I'm always
coming
showing.
through, giving us a little insight on, the
Absolutely.
mindset of a black man. That's so
Absolutely.
dope. I look forward to you being on future episodes. I love y'all
Absolutely.
guys. Y'all be careful tonight. It's the weekend. Find something
Yeah.
nice to do for a man. Please call and check on
If you don't got a man to do nothing nice for, come do something nice for me. I'm in the inbox.
him. But do something for your brother, for your son, for your husband or your boyfriend. Take some of the pressure off, okay? Because that's the same thing we be wanting from the man is take the little pressure off, okay? Everybody got a little pressure across the board. It's always a sense of relief to have somebody show up for you and take some of the pressure off. I love all of y'all black men. Make sure y'all stay tuned next Friday for another episode of Unspoken Truth. I'm your host, Denise. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.